Let's talk about how you should approach your first job, particularly with a view to long-term wealth. Now, I'm going to be honest with you here and say that my long-term recommendation for you is to become your own boss. Ultimately, I think that should be your goal. But nevertheless, I worked for a couple of bosses early on, and it is immensely useful to be part of an organization, part of a team, to work for a boss and to learn what you can. I did a couple of entry-level jobs, including video cassette duplication. A video cassette is very much like a gramophone, only different. And my second job was as a junior journalist and columnist for a community newspaper. And I learned a great deal from that one, particularly working for a boss, a lady named Ellen Robenheimer, and she taught me a huge amount about the way that the whole industry works and how to perceive what I'm doing. So what I'd like to share with you today is some of the philosophies that you might want to take on board as you take on your first job and how to get the most out of it with a view to long-term wealth. Here are 7 things to get from your first job. Number 1, personal discipline. A job forces you to go to sleep at a certain time, get up at a certain time, and maintain certain standards of behavior. Now that's not for them, that's for you. And taking ownership of this idea that everything you do from this point on is helping you to become a more disciplined individual is incredibly powerful. One of the greatest and most long-lasting qualities that you can teach yourself is personal discipline. Number 2, a good reputation. This is the beginning of building a lifelong brand, a lifelong reputation. And it comes down to very simple things. Imagine it this way. If you had to set up a team of people, what would you want from them? The answers are, you'd want a good work ethic, you'd want dependability, you'd want people who do what they say they will do, and people you can rely upon. You need that to be you. You are creating the beginning of your reputation, and that's something you can and will take away from this job. Number 3, an understanding of how the whole thing makes money and how it generates value for a paying client. This may sound like an obvious thing to say, but a surprising number of people spend their entire lives working and only thinking about the thing they do and not how that contributes to the broader goal. If your long-term goal is to become your own boss, is to become wealthy, is to understand entrepreneurship, then you need to understand more than just the thing you do, the bullet points on your job description. You need to understand how the whole thing makes money. How does it generate value for a paying client? What do they get out of it? What do they want out of it? And how does your part, your piece of work, contribute to that? That starts to help you to think on a bigger, more entrepreneurial scale. And beginning to understand value is the genesis of beginning to understand wealth. Number 4, an attitude that begins to ask, what's required for the next level? So be deeply interested in the function that you perform. Be good at it, have a good work ethic, and take it seriously. And also, start to zoom back and say, what's required of me to get to the next level? Now, this is the reverse of entitlement thinking that says, when do they give me what I want? It's the question that says, why would I deserve more than this? How do I become more valuable? How do I contribute more? And what type of person is required for the next level up? Many people miss this one. For example, they dress for the level that they're at because it's good enough. They fail to dress for the next level up because they're not thinking about the next level up. If you're thinking about the next level up, it takes your behavior to a higher plane. Number 5, willingness to handle weird challenges, departures, anomalies, odd stuff. We tend to get very comfortable with the work itself, and we almost develop this feeling, the sense that as long as it's ticking along the way it should, that's okay, and anything else is an intrusion, it's a departure. It doesn't work that way in the real world. You need to develop the kind of attitude and mentality that says departures, anomalies, things that are out of the ordinary are actually quite important. My boss needs me to rise to the occasion and handle that challenge, not to have the smaller mindset that goes, that's not my job, this is my function. This is my function thinking does not graduate. But the kind of person who is broad-minded enough to go, well, I'll handle that too because it clearly matters, that person is in line for graduation. Number 6, here's one that most people struggle with. Willingness to volunteer. volunteering to lead, volunteering to speak, volunteering to teach or to share education, volunteering to mentor, all of the human soft skills stuff. Most people shy away from that, and particularly public speaking. It's often ranked as one of the world's leading fears. And yet Forbes magazine reckons it's one of the most powerful things you can do to get ahead. And that principle applies broadly. It's not, again, just about the technical thing you do, it's about the human soft skills. Are you a leader? Are you a speaker, a teacher, a mentor? Are you able to make the human stuff in that organization work? Human capital is the basis of productivity. Are you just doing a function, or are you a person who helps broadly? And number 7, the ability to learn, but not fawn. Let me explain what I mean by this one. There's something of a double-edged sword here. There are dangers in either direction. On the one hand, you might come in with an attitude that says, young people know everything, old people know nothing, there's nothing I can learn from you. I've been a young people, I'm heading toward being an older people, and I can tell you from personal experience that as a 22-year-old, I was a complete idiot.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
And there is much to be learned from people who have gone through those trials before. But there's a danger on the other end of that spectrum, which is that you over-idolize someone, you fawningly follow the way they do things, and you can actually pick up bad habits. So the way you want to look at that is this. Find people you admire, and by all means accept mentorship. But remain discerning and discriminating. You don't have to take on every bad habit someone else has developed. Admire them for what they know. Learn from them, but use your own discretion to decide what stays and becomes internalized and what goes. Finally, worst thing you can do, a sense of entitlement. I spend my life speaking for corporate companies and I hear this one all the time. The young generation, they're so entitled, they expect so much. You hear stories about 22-year-olds who now want a fancy title and a Range Rover. The reality is, at the age of 22, if you get a fancy title, they're actually condescending to you. Be happy with a simple, straightforward title. Mine was journalist, and I was quite happy with that. In fact, I think it was junior journalist, and no trouble with that at all. Earn the next title up. Earn the next level up by showing your value. The more you use this time to develop the internal characteristics of personal discipline, work ethic, and an understanding of how value is created and how problems are solved, the better positioned you'll be to start your own company and to prosper long term. Learn, soak it up like a sponge, and don't look at it in terms of monthly salaries. Look at it in terms of who I'm becoming. That's the real metric.